Hi.
It took a little while there, but we got it sorted.
Yeah, I think we had, for technical difficulties, sorting it in 10 minutes isn't bad.
Yes. But we are now in the corner, as you can see.
Yes.
So it's not all our faces. You have the text in front of you.
Yeah.
Makes it a little bit easier to interact with the
we
winds.
thought it might be a little better because last time we were sort of just reading off the winds.
Yep.
Which is good. But now with actually the winds in front of us, in front of both of us, all of us,
Yes.
we the people.
The people.
And we're just up in the corner.
Yes.
So hopefully that works better.
Makes it a bit easier. But
you can
first
see what
of all,
we're reading. Yeah.
yes.
Sorry. Yes.
No, it's fine. Well, I just thought we'd introduce ourselves as well. So
Yes.
I'm Charlie.
I'm Danielle.
And we are LARP Larks. And we are just reading the Winds of Fortune. This time I'm going to be doing things a little bit different.
A little bit more streamlined.
More streamlined because while reading out all of the winds with you can be like good and productive, I
Can be
guess.
helpful.
We're thinking we probably want to offer something a little different, a little more like fun, goofy. We can put things in our own words and add in as much bias as we like.
Because when we're just sitting here and reading them off, a lot of it becomes just talking about the factual things.
Yes.
And there's limited room for sort of discussion. Whereas we've sort of had a very brief look through the 4 winds that we're looking at today. We know a little bit about them.
Yeah. How much do you know?
I would say that if I were to go onto the field with my current level of knowledge,
yes,
I wouldn't remember any of it. But after this stream, I will know.
Okay.
I will know enough.
Well,
to be able to talk about it on the field.
I have a lot of notes.
Yeah.
On the first one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that as far as
I have
as far
some
as the preparation
notes
took us.
on the second one. And then yes, I did. No, I didn't make any more notes. I didn't make any more notes.
Okay.
So it was just that. But I did start reading through.
No, you did better than you. My notes.
I read through a little bit of the third one. But yeah, I think I got a little zoomed in there.
Yeah.
But I've got the general vibe.
Yeah, we've got the vibe of each of the 4 wins basically. So we can kind of go into that. Do you still want to do the little roleplay bits?
Yes.
Very good.
Always.
So
we'll always read out those yellow sections and whatnot, because it's fun.
Yeah, these little parchment sections.
Yeah. So we can start with this, Long Shadows. I'll go through a quick fire list of the winds.
Yeah, so the 4 winds we're covering today.
Yeah, we've got Long Shadows, which is about Imperial Orcs, mines, profit to be made, Golden Pyramid, anything like that. If you know it, that's great.
If not, we can explain it.
If not, we can explain it.
Maybe.
Or we just learned it and we can also explain it.
Yeah.
Cities of the Iron Labyrinth. That is Autumn Eternals and their various flunkies offering boons. Lots of boons across the board.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Don't know why. I don't understand
Don't know why. They just like to get involved.
It's spring, but there's autumn stuff going on. Sure, why not?
Great, why not? And then there's the Sound of Bells, which is there are storms in the Bay of Catazar that's causing problems in the Bay of Catazar, and also the Marchers and Neurazeni are cursing each other.
They have been cursing
each other. They have been causing problems.
They continue to escalate. It's a bit of a problem. It's all covered in that wind. Yeah.
And then we've got the last one, which is Into the Spin, which is we have just the last summit, I believe. Finally captured Mareave. And
liberated.
And it's basically, what do we do with Mareave?
Yeah.
But it's the new frontier for us. What do we want to do with it?
It is. I think in general terms, it's like who gets it, and then whoever gets it, these are the problems.
Yep.
So yeah.
Cool.
A lot to get into.
Plenty to. So I'm going to launch into Long Shadows, and we're going to read through the
parchment text.
Do we have like an orc voice? I don't know if I can be like.
What you want is you want like a Cockney voice for an orc, don't you?
All right.
Remember that bar we went to in the orc camp?
You've got to like sound like this.
They were all like,
They were like, you got a weapon on you.
Exactly.
And like, I was going to backclap you, but you were literally about to take a drink.
Oh, okay.
And I thought it would be a really bad idea. Okay.
Right.
Long shadows. The mine workings were impressive, even allowing for the fact that most of the actual work took place far beneath their feet. Wagons on rails, the creak of the bellows, and thick ropes raising and lowering lifts, the chatter of those about to start their shift, and the exhausted shuffling of those who had just finished. The occasional lowing of one of the heavy oxen hitched to the transport wagons. Vanier was studying his dowsing pendulum, a disc of welt silver set with tempest jade and inscribed with runes of Sular and Office. It rotated lazily over his palm, and whatever information the runesmith derived from it was entirely opaque to Moen. The older man stole a glance at their other companion, at the orc travelling with them. Sunhammer Herc was gazing up towards the mountains, eyes shaded, peering at the late afternoon sky. He was clearly not happy with what he saw there. Moen could not read anything in the alpine sky more than he could the revolutions of the spinning pendulum. He'd grown it up in gentle grasslands, and it had been in the novelty visiting these great peaks that had drawn him northward when Vanier had casually suggested it, shortly after the winter solstice. He'd been entirely unprepared for how cold it was. It was much to the amusement of his new order mates. Feeling a little left out, Moen watched the workers instead. After a few minutes he frowned. Why are there no orcs? He wondered aloud. Sunhammer Herc's eyes stayed focused on the sky, and he answered without looking at the man. Not from around here, are you?
Yeah.
Not from around here?
Not from around here.
Hey?
Oh, you're not from around here, are you?
No.
Yeah.
Where are we? I lost my space.
You were just reading You're Not From Around Here,
Yeah,
are you?
he asked mildly. There we go.
Mildly.
Alright, Runesmith Vanier fumbled his pendulum and away... fumbled his pendulum away, goodness.
It's easy for you to say.
Maybe we should... He started, but Moen was already answering. I'm sorry. We've only been in Empire for... Oh.
Why?
I don't know if this is... Sorry, is this the orc?
So Moen...
was already answering,
yeah.
and Moen is not the orc.
No.
Okay, cool. I'm sorry. We've been in the Empire for a little while. There aren't really any orcs in the Confederacy. Have I said something wrong? Moen felt his cheeks heating. He was constantly getting things wrong. It always made him feel wretched. He looked over at Vanier. His fellow magician looked embarrassed. Oh, so he's like outside of the Empire, maybe?
Maybe.
But Confederacy. Okay. Interesting. Thought so. Thought so, said Sunhammer Herc surely. He didn't sound angry or anything, just tired.
Tired of the endless casual racism that you have to deal with day to day.
Honestly. He stopped studying the sky and turned his attention to the former Surani.
Surani will be the out-of-Empire nation in the Confederacy.
The Sunstorm don't work mines. Too many bad memories. Not for us. For those gone before. Moen started to apologise again, but the orc just shrugged. Don't worry about it. It happens. They stood in awkward silence for a moment, but Moen had another question and he couldn't hold it back. If you don't like mines, why are we prospecting mountains? Sunhammer Herc snorted. We don't like working mines, he said. Doesn't mean we don't like owning mines.
Very good, very good. So, you've taken a lot of notes on this particular...
On this one?
On this particular wind.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask, because I want to understand what's going on, what has happened before this wind, if that makes sense.
Oh.
So yeah, yep. what we this now, because a wind is like an opportunity, it means there's an opportunity to do something. Something's happening, but something doesn't happen without something happening before it.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Got that.
So what's that thing?
Yeah, so, I think this is somewhat like what rewards people are getting from things that have happened before, and
Yes.
then more opportunities.
Yeah.
So, this is in Scarsind, which is the Imperial Orcs land, and Irontide Flax, which I assume is a player name, and it probably is like an orc name.
Yeah.
So Irontide Flax and members of the Golden Pyramid
Right.
have invested, and the Golden Pyramid have also given the help at the request of like the Grandmaster
Yeah.
to go and support finding these mines
Okay.
and finding what might be there, finding new mines, all this kind of stuff. So they've been prospecting in this place, avoiding places that seem like a bad idea because of Thule and things like that. And it's been very successful.
Good.
They found like iron, they've found some silver, and there's more to be found basically.
Cool. So it's kind of like a teaming up of the orcs and the Golden Pyramid to prospect these mines.
Yep.
Do we know who the Golden Pyramid are?
I have just learned about them, and so the Order of the Golden Pyramid are a group of like magician priests who focus on using magic for economic purposes, basically. So they focus on like these spells that are specifically about like bringing money and resources and those kinds of things. And they're not apparently they're kind of at loggerheads with the Rod and Shields.
Okay.
Because they are magician fighters who are like, we need to do this for the realm kind of
Right.
thing. But the Golden Pyramid seem to be like, obviously they're quite like rich order.
I see.
And so they can like go and invest.
The vibes I'm getting when you're like, they want to do all this prosperous stuff, as it were. I'm definitely getting the vibe of some, rich magicians always looking for more opportunities to invest. And then the orcs have sort of come forward and said, we've got a lot of very rich, very untapped land we want to explore.
Yeah.
Can someone help us do that?
Yeah,
and they've joined forces.
Yeah. I'm not sure who like initiated, but they were definitely made aware of like certain like old mines and untapped resources.
Well,
and then that means that any Golden Pyramid member who's helped with this, so any of the members at the moment, will receive 2 crowns their next for this like summit, just in their pack.
Yeah.
It says if you think your character didn't help with this, you can give the 2 crowns back at God.
Yeah.
So I think you would. I don't know. Maybe you'll be like, maybe I helped. Maybe I did help. Maybe I went there.
Maybe I did help. I can be persuaded by 2 crowns.
But
I think some people might be principled, let's say, enough to hand back those crowns.
Yeah.
For sure. But I guess that's just a representation of how prosperous a kind of this in between winter and spring, how prosperous those 6 weeks have been.
Yeah.
Because they've made a bunch of money from the endeavour.
Yeah.
It pays to be a member of the Golden Pyramid, it seems.
Well, would it be 3 months?
Well, yeah, it would be 3 months actually. Yeah.
In world time, I guess. So we've got. I'll look at my notes rather than looking at the page. So they have profit from that.
Yeah.
And the Grandmaster can keep them on missions like this.
Yeah.
This can be like a new way for their order, basically. So like, this is a good idea. And they're like, they could stay on missions like this and go to different places around the Empire and stuff. They're not necessarily going to be as lucrative as this, but it's opportunity, it's exploration.
Well, I'm not, but if I am a magician who wants money, I know what order I want to join, right? Yep. There's the Golden Pyramid, who's already a very successful order on the back of this, so...
It's worth knowing, and also, like, apparently there's a lot of association with, prosperity priests as well. So that's like a connection, obviously, because it makes sense, magician priests.
It's a very virtuous thing to go into the world and generate and spread and circulate wealth. So yeah,
as long as it keeps moving, it's all good.
Yeah.
But if they want to do this as the group, the Grandmaster has to put this forward to Conclave, and it would cost. They would have to take like 20 crystal mana from Conclave's coffers at the end of each summit to do so.
Sort of
it is like a thing that costs, and they do have to convince people that it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Still, but it's an option, and it's quite interesting.
Certainly generates a lot of opportunities in game, you know, if they're out there doing stuff.
Yeah. And then there's a very simple kind of section here that says sound business plan, and basically if you are if you have a business in Scarsend, basically.
So you will probably be an orc. I don't think there's any other way.
Basically, I think that there might be like maybe the odd winter mark player that's still in Scarsend, but they'll be rare. But they can diversify their business for free.
Yes.
Which is cool.
So I didn't know what that was. Yeah. Do you know what diversification is?
I don't know what that is, but it sounds good.
Yes. So normally, because I looked it up, because basically business is one of the personal resources you can get, and that means every summit you get something like a throne and a crown and a few rings or something like that. Diversification normally costs a throne to do. Yeah. So now it's free for businesses in Scarsend. Yeah. And it allows you to, I think, sacrifice 2 crowns of your income and instead receive metals.
Nice.
So the idea is that you can have a little bit more variety in your player pack.
That's cool.
Obviously, it represents here these local businesses not necessarily profiting more, but they're just being more metal on the market. Really.
So because the orcs aren't doing the work of bringing things up from the mines, but all that coming into Scarsend, it basically we're hoping that the orcs will buy the metals, and then that becomes part of the wealth of the orcs. Yeah. So it's that's kind of like how that is mechanized, I guess, where it's like you can diversify your business as long as this stuff's happening, basically. Yeah. Then that
you can diversify for free. I think as well, the things that are being mined are much more readily accessible. That's kind of the bit. Yeah. But yeah.
And then we've got...
So those are like the static benefits, right? That's what they've already got. And then there's a bunch of stuff that they can do.
Yeah, so these are now we're looking at the mines themselves. Yeah. So we've got the Cracking Void.
It's an absolutely cracking void.
Absolutely cracking void. And it's a potential sinecure. And there can be... also a person that kind of...
So someone has to run it. So when there's something like this, where there is a set benefit that comes in, you have to have a person that runs an imperial title. Yeah. And that person, that player, receives the benefit that this thing pays out. Okay. And they all have weird names. They're never all the same.
Cool. So the Fugleman of the Cracking Void is the name of that.
Of course it is. The Fugleman. I'm sure it means something, but...
Yeah. And then I think there's going to be... I think all I put next to this one, so I think it's like an existing abandoned mine. Yeah. It's got Tempest Jade in it. They can... basically, what I put was more Golden Pyramid profit.
Yeah,
basically.
Well, I read over this as well. Yeah. So it's kind of just like a standard opportunity for something coming up that creates resources, as it were. Needs a commission slot as standard. Needs a bunch of resources to build, to establish. Once built, it provides Tempest Jade. It provides 15 Tempest Jade to the Fugleman, but it also, because of the Golden Pyramid's involvement, provides the Golden Pyramid with eight Tempest Jade. Yes. So it's a strange one where it's providing this lump sum of metals, but it's splitting it between 2 groups, between an Imperial title and not an Imperial, a player-run organisation.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? So, oh god, I wonder what happens if the Fugleman dies at some point.
That's just where it becomes like an empty role, and someone can come along and take it, or not.
I wonder what happens to the entitlement of the Golden Pyramid if the Fugleman dies. I assume they still get it. Actually, they probably just get it direct.
It would just no. It would if they don't have that. I think then that role is just open to be filled and to be like appointed, however it's been appointed. Like, or however it could be appointed, basically. So someone has to see that person's died and be like, okay, now we decide to appoint someone
however
new.
we appoint it.
Otherwise, we can't like maintain this thing or get money.
Makes sense.
So it would be like on the Golden Pyramids, like.
Well, I think it's super interesting to actually kind of guarantee the Golden Pyramid a set income, because it almost, like you say, it gives them a stake in getting it set up.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that they get it all set up and then they never see any benefit from it because an orc somewhere that doesn't actually like the Golden Pyramid gets the title, so they never share any of the profits. It's actually already set up to split.
The profits stay with the shareholders, and that's the important part.
Yes.
Right?
At the end of the day, I'm sure the Golden Pyramid will appreciate this.
They shouldn't stay with the local people and local land.
No.
They should be spread out amongst the Empire.
I'm dying. I'm sure the Golden Pyramid would love to know that before the world caught on fire, for a very brief moment, the shareholders were incredibly happy.
Yeah, I bet. So we've now got 2 lost mines.
Lost mine, but not anymore.
Not anymore.
Found them.
Found.
2 found mines.
So there's Crimson Peak. These are 2 interesting ones because they were both owned by players that are now dead.
Interesting. I want to pull up the wording of abandoned over half a decade ago. Sounds so much longer than 5 years ago.
It does.
It does. You know why? It's been half a decade.
Half a decade?
Half a decade. Ages. 5 years. It's yesterday.
Yeah. If you said 2019 to me...
Yeah, that's half a decade ago. You're dating the video. When it gets published after that, you can't date a live stream. Yeah. Now everyone will know.
Yeah, I guess they will. Even though this is like specifically an E2 2024.
This content is going to be specifically useless. Well, not you necessarily. You could go back and look at it, I guess, but it's going to be less useful.
It will, yeah. But that's fine. That we're here to be fleeting.
We're here to be with the news
and useful.
Exactly.
Right now, but not in the future. Or maybe in the future. But we've got Crimson Peak Mining, and this was once owned. Yes, peak mining. Once owned by Wolfric Kelvinson, a citizen of Wintermark, and now he's dead.
Sorry, R.I.P.
Rip. And now the mines are overrun by Trigoni, which appear to be like insecty folk.
Yeah,
they're not necessarily bad.
No.
They're just insecty folk that have been living there for years.
I looked these up, and I think we can open another tab here because I thought they looked very, very cool.
Yeah.
Is there a...
Trigoni. Oh. Okay, there we go.
Look at that. I think that's super cool. I'm like, imagine going into a skirmish and fighting like someone kitted out like a Trigoni.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
So they are there basically. Not necessarily been putting any troubles because they've been sealed off by a red iron door. But now they're a bit of a problem. They're kind of in the way now.
They're in the way. Profit. We found a mine. They're in between us and profit.
Yeah, it's kind of out of our hands, really.
It's kind of their fault for being there.
But the orichalcum available would be make it easier to pay for reavers. I looked up reavers. They're basically a mercenary group that's not allied to any nation whatsoever.
Oh, okay.
So reavers or foreign mercenaries to clear the mine, which is funny because it's like we specifically are not asking any of our kind to do this.
We're so busy fighting a war that for these economic things we hire people because it pays for itself.
We don't want to do that kind of work, like killing a lot of
because it's not
people.
It's just not virtuous enough. We could be doing other more virtuous things.
Yeah. So they've got to clear those out. Did I put in what they would need to do to clear that out? So an Imperial Orc.
Yeah.
Or a Golden Pyramid person.
Yeah.
Can choose to put their military unit towards clearing these mines.
Yeah.
So That could be something to happen. And then if that happens, then the steward of the mines of Gulhul, which is a Imperial Orc role,
already exists.
Already exists, will be able to buy orichalcum directly from these mines
at a good rate. I can see from there.
Yes,
not a bad rate at all. You can sell that for more on the field. So, yeah,
that's great. So more wealth for the
if you have a military unit and you're in the Golden Pyramid or you're an orc, you'll get that bonus option to clear out those mines.
Yeah. Which is genuinely appealing, I think, for the orcs, because what I see in this wind is like, we want to give the orcs more wealth, the Imperial orcs more wealth. We've got these like other orcs coming in, like the Apulian orcs and things, and I think maybe it's time to like raise up the Imperial orcs.
What I see is as well, like giving the orcs infrastructure, you know, in a way. We're going back to basics and we're having like mines and farms and things like that.
Yeah.
And we're going back to basics and we're going to build up the infrastructure. You're no longer just on the land and you happen to be a part of it. And you're putting some roots down. Yeah,
they're creating some like societal structure of their own when they've kind of come from a place where they've had to like fight and
It's interesting because there's this, you're going to have to fight to clear out this mine and it's a whole thing. But I'm like, it's kind of like a slice of modern paradise, you know? Coming from a background of, we've got to fight to survive, we've got to fight to break our chains of slavery, we've got to fight to join the Empire, we've got to fight to earn our place. It's like, what are you fighting for now? And it's like, I think we're fighting for ourselves. You know, if you're an orc, you're like, this is just us. This is just us.
Like the nation.
We're like clearing the house, so we're doing a spring clean of the house a little bit, you know? Get the insects out. And get the mine equipment in. So it's just a spring clean.
And the Golden Pyramid are just a helping hand, you know?
Well, the Golden Pyramid taking their fair cut, I'm sure.
They are. So we've got the wells of Janon or Yanon. I don't know how to say his name, and I'll probably get it wrong repeatedly. But these were once the property of Ashbourne Larch before they died. That's a player, so that's kind of cool. So there's like history there, and you might be like, that was me, or I knew that person.
Yes.
But
if it was you, R.I.P.
Right. So Yannon, I'm gonna call him Yannon. Yannon, basically like once protected this mine and miners in it.
Sure.
It's like part of a story, and people like didn't quite understand why he did that. And Yannon is basically like a dragon, like a worm.
Yeah,
that's the form.
He's an Eternal.
Yeah, an Eternal, but that's like the form Yannon takes.
Yeah.
And is a Knight Eternal as well. So this like cave was kind of shielded in like night magic.
Yeah.
And what I like the idea of this, that the mine was never truly like closed.
Yeah.
It was shielded with this magic, and eventually the only people that have been using it are just like occasionally like the local orcs around there who are living quiet lives.
Yeah.
Will just go mine a little bit.
Just
sell it off a little bit.
Yeah.
And then just live their small lives. Like keep it low key.
Keep it a secret.
And it's kind of like this sort of resolution here of like the Golden Pyramid magicians are at a loss of how to proceed.
Yeah.
You know, there are riches here. They can't quite access them because of the night magic.
Yeah.
And the solution would be to talk to Yannon.
Yeah, and I really like this as well because it's so... There's not a solution. It really is like this is a suggestion, but you pretty much got to go figure it out.
Yeah.
The whole area is shrouded in night magic. No one can really get in properly.
Yeah.
So go talk to the person who shrouded it in night magic and see what's up.
Yeah.
They talk about offering a small boon to Yannon. Ultimately, you don't know why this Eternal has made all the effort to take back this mine in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So... is there something even deeper and darker and more important at the bottom of whatever that mine was called?
Wells of Yannon.
Wells of Yannon.
Yeah, it's interesting. And then the last, mine, I was like, what is it called?
Yeah.
The last mine we have.
What's that? The place where you mine. What's it called?
Where do you mine?
The place where you do mining.
Gosh.
Who knows?
are called the Sorrowful Tunnels. And this is really interesting because it creates a boss seat. And
yes.
I would argue that, like, it would be great to see an Imperial Orc in a boss seat.
Massive.
And for that to be, for like, almost like to create this motivation, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, it's our land, it's like our thing. And if we ever wanted to protect it, we want it to be like belong to like one of our own or whatever that might be.
I don't know how this works in practice because when they say it's a boss seat, obviously it is a boss seat. This boss seat gets mithril. Again, super important resource, fantastic infrastructure for the orcs. But then I'm like, is that a boss seat which is auctioned, or is it a boss seat which is appointed by imperial position? And is that a decision that needs to be made,
Maybe.
basically? Because while I agree, it would be great for an orc to sit in the seat of Scarcint. What if that's not the case? What if it just goes up for auction?
Okay, yeah. So I think it's about how it's created.
Yeah.
Maybe, but so we'll dial back a sec. So the Sorrowful Tunnels, they're mithril mines, obviously, and when they explore it, it has like an incredibly like sad aura to it. There's something that feels like
deep melancholy.
Yeah, and like it comes over you, and like you can't really get rid of it, and they discover all these ancient troll runes.
Oh, okay.
So it's like an old troll kingdom, and we basically, to help with this aura, to make it workable, we need like lots of liao and continuous sort of investment of liao.
Sure.
So I think even once it's a boss seat, it might still require this investment of liao alongside the other things that you put into the boss seat to keep that like aura at bay.
To keep the vibes good.
Keep the vibes good.
I'm imagining just a lot of people coming out of the mines and being a little bit despondent. Kind of like having a few priests or bishops or things like that on hand and ready to be like, you do good.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want to work.
Do you want to do something else?
Yeah. Do you want to do something like that? You're going to have a crazy dream tonight.
You're going to do some very low level drugs, basically.
So that's all part of this boss seat. And then what we need to do is there needs to be a separate Senate commission to get the mine like workable.
Yeah.
20 wains a weirwood, 60 crowns a labour. Not a big thing. However, if we immediately just try and get the mine operational to try and make money, blah blah blah. That means that we will be destroying all of the archaeological evidence in there, because this used to be a troll kingdom.
I didn't pick up on this.
Yeah. So this was a troll kingdom, and that's kind of maybe why there's this aura there. And so what can be done is that we can do a one-time historical research commission.
Yeah.
And then we will have like the opportunity to like research it and find out all we can about the trolls before we can then
paving over with concrete.
Yeah, basically. And there are two researchers, Snowstorm Henk and Mark Siwarsbarn, who would be excited to research this.
That's super cool. I hadn't picked up on that bit of it, because normally when you're presented with the opportunity of such a big seat, I could just see people being like, yeah, we'll pay whatever.
Yeah, go for it.
That cost of 20 weirwood, you get 18 wains of mithril back immediately next season. It's going to pay for it really quickly. But then, if there's a little historical secret down there,
a bit of lore.
But it's not just there's a one-time opportunity to do a historical secret. That historical secret, whether it's good or bad, costs 18 wains of mithril. Because that's what you're losing by not doing it straight away. So you're literally paying 18 wains of mithril to pursue that. And
people might argue against that, like people going for the research, being like, this is like mithril the Empire could use, but then maybe
to, like do their armies and stuff.
Learning more could be more interesting, and it also could be like interesting to understand like more about the place and maybe about the aura, so it could potentially be dealt with maybe in a different way.
I wonder how frequently trolls have featured in the past. It's not something that I've really heard of. It might just be outside of our kind of areas. But if trolls are something that other people or places or groups are interested in, then they might be like, well, what compensation do you want to let us commission that historical research and hold fire for a season?
Yeah.
There's always that opportunity if people are super interested in trolls.
Trolls?
Trolls.
And it could just tell us so much more about the history of the world, and I'm always for more lore and things like that. It would be really cool to know.
Yeah, we've got loads of war seats. Give us troll background.
We can wait one summit.
We can pay 18 wains of mithril.
Yeah.
It's all just, well, we are at war, but
we're always at war. Okay.
We're always at war.
I think that wraps up this one.
Yes.
I think we've got our fill here.
A lot of mines, a lot of potential mines.
Yeah, and actual mines. Yeah, there's like all sorts of stuff going on. So the next is the Cities of the Iron Labyrinth, and this is the Autumn Eternals and whatnot, like giving boons for whatever reasons.
Yeah, I struggled to get a grasp on why the Autumn Eternals were giving so many boons at this time of the year.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a reason. I'm sure there's a very compelling reason. They didn't grasp it.
Yeah, in the overview, it was like the Autumn Realm, like, is the magical realm that seems to sort of involve itself at most with politics.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just like dipping its toe into the world and like, I guess, spreading its influence in that way, which I think makes sense if we think of like autumn as this thing of like a time of abundance and harvest and all that kind of stuff, where like we'll give you stuff and direct the way that you act.
Yes. So the what I know about the Autumn Realm is I think they're also very like heavily involved in trade, which kind of like branches off of what you just said in terms of like giving stuff. They're super involved in like
they're giving.
Yeah, they're giving.
Yeah.
They're not serving.
No.
But they are giving.
They are giving.
And trading.
And trading.
But as I understand it, there are a various number of rituals you can do with the Autumn Realm to literally like trade directly with the Autumn Realm or with Eternals.
Yeah.
So lots of cool stuff like that.
It's pretty cool.
But yeah, let's do the roleplay bit.
Let's read
Let's do the parchment roleplay.
Okay. You want 2 thrones for this small pile of Tempest Jade? Outrageous. You may as well cut the bottom of my purse and watch my blood run out.
Goodness.
But there is this nice gold brooch, and that could be worth a ring or 2. And nobody leaves my table empty-handed, so I'll tell you what I'm going to offer. Portia stared at the prattling herald as it babbled in a vain attempt to haggle with the architect. Thekla had been plain about the price and was not budging from it, but if the herald was disconcerted by her spiremate's stoic demeanour, it showed no sign of it. The banal patter, so reminiscent of a Savos street urchin, continued apace. As the creature progressed to making preposterous claims about being hard up, despite the heavy pouch of money clearly visible on the table next to the box. Is this what you expected? She whispered to Dukas, who stood next to her watching the exchange. She'd heard of the changes that the Hidden Prince had made to the ritual, but this was the first time she'd actually seen it in practice. Dukas was the only one with the ritual mastered, so it made sense for him to cast it. But she'd been intrigued at the prospect of actually seeing one of the Merchant Queen's heralds at work. Her colleague nodded and then leaned in so that he could whisper conspiratorially. According to Nunez's guide to the inhabitants of the city of Lead and Gold, the herald isn't motivated by profit, so much as the knowledge of what things might be worth. By his logic, it's the creature's nature that compels it to engage in this ridiculous back and forth. It's almost like an Ushabti swinging an axe. It's essentially mindless.
It's like mindlessly bartering.
Yeah.
Even though it knows it's not going to achieve anything more than its correct price.
Like we have to do this dance, otherwise it's not right.
God. Yeah, I've been places like that.
Yeah. If you'd only placed that in the box, then we might have secured a much higher price. The herald was gesticulating at Thekla's sigil, as if trying to suggest that the architect might somehow add it to the offer. Or more precisely, the fact that the laws of magic now constrained her from adding her sigil, that meant she should accept a lower price. It was a preposterous charade, not least because the sigil had never been on offer at any point. Portia stared at the herald and tried to imagine it not as a living creature, but as a thing of metal, of bronze plates and brass cogs.
It's like a little automaton.
Yeah. A machine of magic whose wheels turned inexorably according to the whim of some distant creator. It didn't look like an Ushabti, but appearances could be deceptive. One of the Eternals' names was the Invisible Hand. Could there be an unseen hand working this thing even now, like a puppet on strings? Thekla finally consented and dropped the price by a crown. Seconds later, the deal was done, and the herald counted out exactly the agreed money from the purse and then swept the jade into the now emptied leather bag. There was a final stream of gratuitous banter as it thanked Thekla for the exchange and the opportunity to visit such an attractive spire, and then it was gone, disappearing back the way it had come towards the spire's Reggio. As soon as it was out of sight, she moved over to congratulate the architect. "Did we really just get a shade under 2 thrones for that Tempest jade?" she asked. Thekla nodded, her lips pursed in quandary. It was significantly more than they had been expecting. Definitely more than they had received last time they'd employed the ritual. It would appear that Tempest jade is in a great demand in the city of gold and lead right now.
Interesting. So, that makes a lot of sense, that there would be different exchange rates for these other places in other realms that might drive you to trade with them.
And it might affect this realm?
I mean, it does
Thinking
affect
about
this.
Tempest Jade,
Well,
is that going to be a thing?
Well, exactly. If there's a demand for Tempest Jade somewhere else and the price rockets and we move all the Tempest Jade that way, we don't have any Tempest Jade.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So maybe that's going to be a thing of like Tempest Jade prices going to go up,
So,
which makes those mines very valuable and those kind of things.
The wheels within wheels and all that.
So what did I have here? Okay. So I kind of like. There's a lot of stuff going on here visually, and so I kind of went into the kind of mystic scrolls.
Yeah.
Because that is like the meat of this. I don't know if you have anything else to add from the sections before it, but for me, I'm like the meat and bones of this is the mystic scrolls and what you can do to gain these benefits, basically.
Yeah, I think this bit here is just a brief on the fact that there are a number of deals, and then we basically go on to talk about those deals. And the only bit I would highlight is that Varushka cannot make any use of offers that involve before the throne of Estivus.
Oh.
I think for some reason still irritated. So
Still irritated.
Varushka.
What do they do?
Well, in true Varushkan form, it wouldn't be the first Eternal they've annoyed. They've managed to annoy another Eternal. And now they're not doing business with them as well. But yeah, no, you're right. Mystic Scrolls and onwards is sort of where we pick up with what deals are on offer.
Yes. So the first one is the accoutrements of war, and so the vibe I'm getting is that you pay a lot for one of these mystic scrolls.
Yeah.
Which lets you do the ritual?
Kind of, yeah. So they are basically limited time offer rituals.
Yeah.
This season only.
Yeah.
Everyone must go. Only so many people. So normally, when a new ritual is discovered, because people can do that, players can develop, make new rituals, encode them within the game, and then they can be published on the wiki or in-game. Very cool. These are slightly different, and it notes here in this section, a single mystic scroll allows up to a dozen magicians who master it to master the ritual before the power fades. And then they cannot be codified into imperial law, they cannot be taught, they cannot be passed on. So you are basically looking at 3 increasingly powerful rituals which can only be taught to a dozen magicians, to remembering that those magicians need to be able to come together themselves to cast the rituals of a certain magnitude. So there's a lot of pieces that need to come together. But basically, very powerful, limited time offer rituals that do things, powerful things.
And how do we get these mystic scrolls?
So,
is that
so a ritualist just up here can purchase one of the scrolls using the ritual before the throne of Estivus.
I see.
So, for people who don't know what before the throne of Estivus is, it is, I think, the one where you put your trade offerings in a box.
Okay.
And you send that box into the Autumn Realm, and then you get your box back, and it has what the Autumn Realm has decided to give you for those items.
Okay.
But you can use that ritual here with very specific things inside of it.
Okay,
For
I've
example,
got that. Yeah.
the rune and the Measured Dragon Bone, and you will get back one of these Mystic Scrolls.
So this is kind of what I thought. So you're paying. So for the first one,
Yes.
Accoutrements of War, you sort of pay by doing the Before the Throne of Estivus ritual, and you have to contain a rune of Lan and 100 measures of dragon bone with it.
That's the cost.
That's the cost, and then in return, you can do the Accoutrements of War ritual, which then means that you can basically give like the equivalent of 5 normal upgrades to a military unit.
Yeah.
For this one. So basically, it's the idea that you have these arms, you have these like metal, because it's all associated with like
accoutrements of war.
Yes,
yeah.
and that is helping bolster your like military unit.
Yeah.
And so let's see, they will receive 12. Oh, so instead of like getting paid, you'll get random ingots of metal. Instead of in addition to their normal returns.
Yes. So what I want to distinguish here is that when you have is it an Imperial army? No, it's a military unit.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a military unit, you can send it to support the Imperial army.
Yeah.
And then it contributes its power towards that army, or you can send it away to do other things. And I think the general idea of Accoutrements of War is that it provides an upgrade of 5 levels to that unit.
Yeah.
And the effect of that is, if it supports the army, it makes it better by a factor of 5 normal upgrades. If it's not fighting, if it's doing paid work, that's when you get an additional 12 random ingots.
Okay.
Because it's kind of like, I get my 5 random ingots that I would have got, and because it's 5 levels better, I get another 12 random ingots.
Yeah.
So it's a really powerful ritual.
That's cool. So it's an either or. You'll either get like metal in like recompense for paid work, or you'll be 5 times more 5 times upgraded,
more powerful
for this season of campaigning, however long that it lasts.
So one more thing, every single one of these what are they called, mystic scrolls and resultant rituals have a caveat.
Okay.
I don't know if you picked up on the caveat here. They call it an assurance.
Okay.
So the ritual ceases to function if the Empire breaches the terms of parley with an Autumn Eternal.
Yeah.
So it is a super powerful ritual, one-time offer. You can lose it if you mess up in the future.
Yeah.
And you don't have to mess up. You could have spent all your time and resources getting this ritual in place. It can be someone from an entirely it doesn't even have to be a magician. It can be someone from an entirely different nation interrupting a parley with an Autumn Eternal. Gone.
Yeah.
So there's a risk. There's a caveat.
Interesting. And then because that shows, I guess, their real motivation as well.
Yeah.
The second ritual is Ramparts of Ashlar. It will cost the ritual of the Before the Throne of Estivus with the Rune of Lan and 350 ingots of Welt silver. And it will enchant an existing region containing a fortification. The strength of the fortification is increased by 3,000. I assume that's good.
Yes.
And it is of a magnitude 150. So it's that's the ritual, and that's a big magnitude.
Yeah.
And the assurance, it ceases to function if a servant of the Empire ever refuses a lawful demand of the Brass Magistrates.
I don't know who the Brass Magistrates are.
So they are a certain group of lictors, so working under the Eternals.
Oh, yeah.
So they're referred to as the Punishers. Oh, these are the chain-bound. They're like the kind of reckoners.
Oh, okay.
So they all, they are all about oaths, obligations, contracts, things like that. So if they come along and say, like, we bind you to this.
Yeah. So if someone has illegally broken an oath, and the lictors brass magistrates lictors come along and say, we are punishing this person, if you turn them away because that person is very important and you don't want them to be punished, you lose the ritual.
You lose it.
I think it's a huge boost. I have no idea how magnitude, because there's lots of things you can do to boost your own magnitude.
Yeah.
I'm like, you got to get a dozen powerful magicians together, and they have to get to magnitude 150, right? Because otherwise you can't cast that ritual.
Yeah, I think that must be a big part of the game. Really, is either having a coven powerful enough to do stuff,
deciding who gets these magics,
running around the field. Yeah. So the third ritual is Hammers of Fury, and so the payment for it is the ritual of before the Throne of Estivus, and it's Ruin of Lan and 360 ingots of orichalcum. And so this enchants the forges, foundries and smithies throughout a territory, infusing them with the heat of Shakal's forges so they can forge the arms and armour needed to equip an army with supernatural speed. It reduces the time needed to muster armies in the territory by 1 season, so that's good.
Okay, yeah. Muster armies much quicker.
So, muster armies quicker. Mines throughout the territory also see their production of metals reduced by 2 ingots, but each gain a pouch of warm ashes in its place.
And warm ashes is the autumn equivalent of
mana.
This can be used in replacement for 3 mana for an autumn ritual only.
Okay. Magnitude of 80, so it's a bit lower. Has an assurance. It will only function so long as the Empire possesses a working rune forge.
I think we only have 1 working rune forge as well at the moment.
Interesting.
I'm not really sure though. One of the things I'll say with kind of my knowledge about this stuff, I understand how it all works. I don't understand how good each of these are.
Yeah.
You know, I think they're very contextual. I think it very much depends on what's going on as to whether it is important that you muster an army quicker, reinforce a particular region at short notice, or boost a military unit. I mean, I'd be interested to see which one of those, if any, they might go forward with, because it would lend some knowledge as to what is important to the Empire right now.
Yeah, I can see that last one almost appealing to potentially the orcs. Or I guess maybe to the Golden Pyramid around these mines. Because if we're giving orichalcum and it's then gonna be able to give things to the armies really quickly and have there's it just makes sense, I think, for mines having being able to produce mana as well, kind of diversify.
Yeah, I think you're right. A little diversification sounds pretty good.
I was thinking I might just have a little look at the. There we go, Ramparts of Ashlar. So, there is another ritual that's part of the Mystic Scrolls of Estivus as well.
Yeah.
I just sort of came across it here, Machines of Destruction.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if I don't know if it's in here specifically.
No, it might be a different ritual that came up at a different time.
Maybe at a different
time. It
time.
might be the only one that, there might have been another selection of 3 at some point.
Yeah.
And that was the one they took.
Maybe it's the only one lasting or something.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so that one, there is another one if you're interested to look at that as well. So we'll look metal and stone. Okay, so if you have anything to say on these ones, please do. But I'm not
Let's have a look
totally.
here. So, just have a quick skim.
Yeah. I'm thinking with this, I think
investigate.
Let's have a look on magic.
Yeah, that's fine. So what this is an opportunity to gain more information about a certain thing. So the reason why I think this one might be difficult to read is because the operative and important bit is actually in the last sentence.
Okay.
So if you name and pay for a visit to a boss seat, I think it has to be mithril or white granite.
Okay.
Then representatives of the Eternal will visit, and they will give advice and give proposals on how that particular resource might be defended, along with ways to improve output.
Interesting.
Very important. After all, defense against losing money is still defense. So the idea is, and I think this is why it's difficult to read, because actually what it does is right at the end.
Yeah.
You can invest in a resource, and you can find out ways to make it easier to defend, or potentially more importantly, you can in fact find out ways to upgrade it.
Okay.
And I think the cost escalates over time, but a great opportunity to do up some existing resources potentially.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense considering the last wind as well. Of just being able to, like, if I think about the final, like the what was it called, the sorrowful tunnels, it's probably perfect for that, because it's like you could look into this and it might give you more knowledge on like the sad aura and things like that.
Yeah, well, it's limited to just these types of resources.
Yeah.
But I think it was a mithril mine, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, you could look into the mithril mine more as well.
Yeah. I also just want to say hi to Doc Knox. Hi. And they've said, last autumn summit of Varushkan took a schemata supposed to be only for Wintermark, annoying the Eternal.
Right, so that is why...
That's why they're not allowed to do it.
That is why Varushka is banned.
Yes.
Banned from the party, specifically. Hopefully the schemata is worth more than whatever is going on here.
They're like, you shouldn't have done that, because now everyone's going to get all the cool stuff and not you.
Yeah. But this is an opportunity to upgrade or protect an existing resource. The first one costs 150, then 200, then 250, and then that's it. Then they're plum tuckered after that, so they can't do any more.
All right.
Yeah.
Recognition of technique is the next little section.
Yeah. So I would expand that little box.
Okay. What are we looking at? Oh.
Yes. So I had a look at this one. Basically, there is 10 of every one of those items on offer. So you can go and purchase for the amount next to them, and I assume they're a good price, one of those magical items as part of a ritual. It's sort of like, amongst all of the boons that this particular Eternal is offering, there is some bargain bin discount items, 20% off that you can pick up today. There is a note that if you purchase the 11th item, if you do the ritual, pay the amount, and you try to purchase the item, and all 10 have already gone, I think you basically lose your money or whatever, and you get something, but it's not worth what it would. Only has limited quantities. Any stock, where you'll exchange for warm ashes. 1 pouch for each 5 full ingots. Any excess will be returned to the caster. So you'll basically end up with a bunch of mana instead. It's not the worst, not the best, not what you probably wanted to do.
Do you know what it makes me think of?
What?
It makes me feel like they're like, you can get this, but you can only get a refund in like my Bitcoin.
Yeah.
my like specific crypto.
I feel like it's when you pay a store, you go to somewhere, buy a piece of clothing for £35.
Store credit.
Yeah, and then they give you back, and they're like, well, we can't do a refund, we'll do store credit for you.
Which basically means we still have your money.
We still have your money. You're still going to do this ritual with the Autumn Realm in the future.
It's coming back to us anyway.
Yeah.
But, but that's interesting. So I'll list the items. Cerulean Protector, Winter's Breath, Blacksmith's Wage, Nightly Redoubt, Roaring Chimera Rod, Sedania's Call, Suzerain's Command, Vambraces of Regeneration, Ashen Mantle, and Abraxas Stone.
That'll all do stuff.
That'll do good stuff, I am very sure.
Yeah, if you want to know more about them, I'd suggest clicking through them on the wiki.
Or asking on the field. Or visit the Anvil Library. Yeah, I get. Imagine, I don't know if they would be like, here is a list of all the magical items possible.
I think the librarian would probably say that it's all in the public domain.
Domain.
So yeah, but anyway, or ask your nearest Archmage.
Yes.
Because they'll definitely know every item off by heart.
Definitely. So, reveal the knowledge. The last boon from the Mistress of the Hammer is offered unasked for and freely. Any performance of Hand of the Maker, performed using an urn of warm ashes, is magnitude 6 rather than magnitude 8. So it means that it's easier to cast this ritual,
yes.
which...
So I looked at this. It's a nice straightforward ritual. You basically do it on an item and you find out the answers to those questions. You find out who made it and where it's come from.
Very good. Well, if you don't know what those items are, maybe you should...
Well, the idea is that you would have a created item already.
And you're like, what is this?
You're basically like, who made this bomb of exploding? And you can like do the Hand of the Maker, and it gets linked back to the person because behind the scenes you're doing it on a ribbon with a number on, and the ref will have whoever made that number item. So yeah, I don't know. It's probably like not mind blowing, but it's a free discount. Again, it's a bunch of discounts. It's a bunch of bargain bins.
Interesting. It could be very important for like certain things. I imagine, what if it was like a crime
investigating
or something?
crime.
Yeah, but like some reason, I'm sure that'd be very good for that.
Yes.
Rates and returns. Okay.
So I read a little bit about this, and this appears to concern the high level of volatility in price that was referenced in the roleplay at the beginning. You know, in the roleplay when they were like, I can't believe we got all that money for that Tempest Jade.
Yeah.
The idea is that there is a dearth, a lack of certain resources in the Autumn Realm, and they are going to start asking a higher price for them. Well, they are going to start paying a higher price for them.
They won't be asking to pay that price.
Yeah. So it kind of summarises it here. But Beggar's Lie and Tempest Jade are being offered for higher than normal prices. Also notes that the agreement between the Grendel and the Empire is no longer available. So I think that was a previous trade agreement was on offer. So that's gone now.
That's gone. It's off the table.
So
okay.
yeah, if you've got any Beggar's Lie this event, if you've got any Tempest Jade, you can get a very good price for it if you trade it with the Autumn Realm.
Yeah. How interesting.
Another deal. Another great deal.
Another great deal. Get it now. And then the cities of Lock and Bond.
More lictors.
More lictors. So someone's going to be... The cities of Lock and Bond, the lictors, will be meeting with a representative of Ashbourne Trosk at the Hall of Worlds at a particular time, yet to be determined.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the Creaked Mask and the... I'll be honest, I'm not
up to speed on this one.
Okay.
I think the idea is that Ashbourne Trosk has made a request has basically posed a question.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what about, to the Autumn Realm, and they've come back with an answer. It looks like there were boons on offer. So one of the boons is on offer and has been agreed to accept the boon of destruction, where an army is equipped with the finest siege weapons.
Okay.
I imagine this is to cement an arrangement. I don't know. I think this came up last season, so I'm surprised to see it's still going with someone's name on. I remember Ashbourne Trosk.
Okay.
I remember they were offered something, so I can only imagine that the trade deal either didn't take place last season because it might have been rained off, literally, or it might have just been missed in some way, but there's going to be an agreement made in relation to a boon.
Okay.
Time yet to be confirmed. But another deal, but more of like a deal for this person or their representative.
Yeah, more specific. Okay, that's cool. So that's the cities of the Iron Labyrinth.
Yes. If you're looking for anywhere on the field that has 20% off, buy one get one free stickers everywhere.
Great deals.
Great deals. It's this area.
It's here.
It's cities of the Iron Labyrinth. It's deals with the Autumn Realm. Yeah, they just want to give it all away for free.
Yeah, no strings attached.
Yeah,
at all.
Not going to get into any trouble doing it.
Okay, so the next we have Sound the Bells.
Yes. So, do you have any notes on Sound the Bells?
I don't have any notes, but I did read some of it.
Yes.
And I do know that it's about Bear Catazar and the storms going on, and also the sort of metaphorical storm raging between Marches and New Year's.
I do think the curses that they cast on each other did actually bring incredibly bad weather as well.
That adds up.
But also the metaphorical storms.
The metaphysical, yes.
The metaphysical, metaphorical.
Yes.
Metafuckeral, yeah.
Okay, so we might have some March voices, which is nice. I also think we have some March proverbs or some
What you have,
saying,
I think if I remember, loads of March proverbs.
Very good.
Very wise.
Very good. Okay. Is Marcus a Marcher name? Oh, it's definitely a Marcher speaking because it sounds like a quote. It sounds like a Marcher proverb.
That already sounds like a Marcher proverb.
Right. Wisdom is not always knowing the answer. Oh gosh, wisdom is not always knowing the answer. Wisdom is finding the right question. Marcus intoned. Electo rolled his eyes as his brother lectured him on the virtues. He hadn't seen his siblings since they'd arrived in the strange land and gone their separate ways, agreeing to meet at season's end. Now here they were as the equinox approached, and true to form they were arguing. It had always been the same growing up together. It was like they'd never left Urizen. Oh,
Urizen.
Well, I take back the accent. And what of pride, he rebutted. We should embrace our past, not be ashamed of it. Marcus shook his head. This is not a matter of pride or shame. It's a matter of poise. We cannot will the marchers to action. We have no control over what they do. The only thing we can control is ourselves. If we wish to end this conflict, then the choice to act is only our choice. We must be the blade that cuts. Properly wielded, one strike can change the world. I can't believe you're taking their side in all of this. Of all matters. The oldest scholar smiled ruefully. I'm not taking their side. I'm taking ours. The Marchers might be simple folk who love nothing more than to toil in the fields, but they are wealthy, and they have 4 armies. And having monies and armies makes them right, does it? Electo looked scornfully, but he could already see where his brother was going with this. Notions of fairness have no place on the battlefield. We are sword scholars. Nothing is more virtuous than success. Last time the Druge invaded, the Empire left us a twist in the wind. Only the Highborn came to aid, and when the Druge return, we will regret making the Marchers our enemies. Better to reforge the blade now, while the coal is still hot. Well, I pity you trying to convince anyone to come back home along with your crazy plan. Alecto shook his head dismissively, but he knew it was a mistake as soon as he saw his brother smile. No, he interrupted, loud enough for the others to turn in the tavern to look at the pair. Don't say it, he warned. Pity is an illusion, his brother mouthed, profiting neither the self nor others.
So wise, so full of wisdom.
So wise.
I feel like I want to immediately splurge my knowledge about the sword scholars, because I think that's highly relevant. I think it'll be relevant somewhere. Yeah. So, as I understand it, the sword scholars were a group of people in Urizen who were dedicated to, while you were busy listening to this live stream, they were mastering the blade, unfortunately. While you were busy going to Anvil, they were mastering the blade. And they are both incredibly kind of wise scholars, well learned, but also masters of the sword. They followed the teachings of a person that I can't remember the name of. Yeah. But the person, I think, was widely not reviled, but I think they weren't a very virtuous person by declaration of the synod. Okay. I have a feeling there was some contention, something like that. There was a reason why, basically, and that kind of led back round to the reason that it was potentially bad to be a sword scholar, because it meant that you were following this person's way of life, and this person's way of life is not virtuous. Anyway, now maybe some of that's right, but
yeah.
Last event, the sword scholars had to decide a way forward. They had to decide.
Oh, they were like cast out, by the way, of Urizen. So they could no longer be within Urizen, and I think almost like it wasn't like they could be like killed, but they were like basically illegal or something like that. Like
you're completely right. So the idea was that they were given 3 options. They could stay in Urizen, but stay in hiding, stay as hermits, and continue on the Order of the Sword Scholars in secret. Mm-hmm. They could renounce their way of life, their faith, their philosophy, and naturalise as citizens of Urizen, or they themselves could leave and spread their knowledge, their prowess, their teachings all across the Empire.
Yeah.
And it is that third option that they went with.
They chose that. So they're now going to be like sprinkled across the Empire with like Urizen-y roots, but not part of Urizen.
Yeah.
And that makes it a very interesting kind of group of people.
Yeah.
Because it was almost like one of the first tries for like, oh, will Urizen have like a sort of fighting force,
as it were, yeah.
And then they were crushed. And I think that's like very clear that Urizen are like, this is us, this is our culture, we're not going to bend at all.
I think that's probably good background. So I know, having skimmed through this before, sword scholars come up later on in this wind. So I think it's useful to have that background.
Yeah, cool. So lots of lots of storms happening everywhere.
Yeah.
Specifically, Urizen are really like racked with storms, and this comes from a curse.
Yes.
So if we start from supply and demand, so that is sort of defining. Urizen was cursed with winter's ferocity, which causes lots of terrible weather and things like that. Let's see.
So
Ministry of the.
I'm basically what I want to zoom in on is who cursed them. I think I see more devours. I'm not entirely sure that it might have been an eternal.
Oh.
I'm not sure, but I think the thrust of it is that Urizen are cursed in a major way.
Yeah. Okay, and so the titles that rely on those markets, because they're not able to gather more mana crystals, and so they and everyone else in the Empire are kind of suffering for mana a little bit, and so the Grand Masters of the Conclave and the Quartermaster General and the Stewards of Mana Exchanges in Sarvos and Tacitus, all of them are like suffering.
It's
basically
starting to create like a radiating problem in terms of mana supply because of the curse. I've just spotted the piece of information that I wanted.
Yes.
I have a feeling the curse comes from an external influence, as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
So, well, I guess in how vague it is, I guess we don't know who's cursed Urizen. I guess it's not been found out, and we don't know if the curse is going to be extended.
Interesting. And then okay, so there we go. There's now like roleplay influences. So there will be like discomfort, short temper, and like irritable, even like aggressive behaviour from Urizen, which is very much not their thing because poise is their thing.
Poise is their entire thing. They remain composed at all times.
Yes, and they they can rely on their poise one time to get a one-off benefit, and if they release a burst of fury,
that they have been squishing down inside themselves for months
on a time, they can cast one single offensive spell that costs 1 mana without spending any of their personal mana. So that one rage is like strong enough that it like literally doesn't need mana.
Unleashes magic on the world.
Yes. So that is something I guess kind of fun that you can play with in your role play as someone from Urizen from Morrow Redoubt or Zenith.
Yeah.
And then we've got Turn the Other Cheek. So this is like the Marchers and the Urizen trying to...
Okay, maybe it was the Marchers that cursed them.
Maybe it was.
Okay, maybe it was the Marchers.
So it's at the point where it's going to like harm the Empire, like the split between the two nations, and And it says Jediah Boone seems to have offered an olive branch by raising a judgment in the assembly, inviting sword scholars from the Urizen to bring their teachings to the marchers.
So they are travelling.
And offering to send their friars to Urizen. It didn't get a greater majority, so it's not necessarily moved that many people.
Yeah.
But then there's Cato. Maybe we need to read through these judgments.
Yeah. So let's have a read.
I think if we do that, we'll probably get more. All right. So, shall I do the Marchu one?
I think you want to.
And you can do the Urizen one.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you can take the one. Okay. Once you burn a bridge down, there ain't no point picking at the ashes. The river is long and winding. There are many other places fit to cross. We invite the Urzeni scholars of the sword, led by the House of the Wanderer, to bring their teachings to our nation. In return, we send our friars of the marches to Urizen, where we have agreed in magic we will unite in faith. 2 schools of virtue, together in one cause, to share how our same religion manifests in the people of our different nations. Together, the friars of Urizen and the sword scholars of the marches will build a bridge between our 2 peoples. Together, we will break new ground with pride.
So that only got a lesser majority. It didn't get a greater majority.
Yes.
So it didn't move a lot of marches.
So 160 votes for, 40 against.
But then we had, in response to the invitation by Jebediah Boone of the Marchers, we encouraged the National Assembly to invite Marcher priors to speak in Urizen and to send sword scholars to the Marchers to facilitate exchange of views in virtue, seeking de-escalation. And that did achieve a greater majority, which means that it is an incredibly moving statement.
Yeah, okay. So there is a desire for that from the other side.
I think the only thing I kind of want to add in at this point, now knowing that it is between the Marchers and the Urizen, is that there has been kind of a cursing back and forth.
Yeah.
I think there has been, from the point of view of some, inequitable punishment as well.
Yeah.
So this will come up a little later, but basically the Urizen cursed the Marchers, and I think one person was punished, and then the Marchers cursed Urizen back.
Yeah.
They might have raised the stakes a little bit, and several covens in the Marchers got punished. And the result is that those covens in the Marchers were declared sorcerers, and they can no longer cast magic, under threat of execution.
Gosh.
To expand on that again, that means they can't cast any magic to bolster their farms. So they're actually stuck in a position where the Marchers feel really bad because they see themselves just as giving as good as they've got, but they have been, in their eyes, disproportionately and inequitably punished for doing kind of the same thing. And it is that sort of feeling which is starting to cause things to snowball towards a bad outcome.
Yeah, okay. So it's almost like the Marchers haven't been able to recover in the same kind of way.
Yeah, because their covens were banned from using magic.
Yeah.
Because they cast the curse.
Yeah. Gosh.
They have been economically affected.
Yeah.
Whereas opposed to Urizen, where it was just one person that got punished.
And so now they want to build like a farming ritual to improve things.
Well, on the back of that successful judgment, which is like, what can we do to de-escalate the problem? I believe the first few salves are, okay, let's make Marcher life a little better, because the Marchers are the people who have lost out the most. What can we do to make their life a little easier in comparison? And there are those 3 options here.
Okay.
So enchant the Marcher farms. So the idea here is that The land keepers are normally adept at these rituals, but they are currently banned from casting magic. But what if those rituals were casted by Urizeni magicians instead, as a way of kind of healing that rift, and them being like, well, we're economically fucked, we can't cast any of our rituals, what are we going to do? For Urizen to make the gesture of coming across and casting those rituals for them would be a very, very kind of big gesture.
And they are like the nation's breadbasket and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And there's a good point at the end. Marcus doesn't, whoever this Marcus is, Marcus doesn't fail to point out that Urizen has not been slow to demand a reckoning from the League for the loss of Spiral. Do Wintermark and Urizen not owe the Marches a reckoning for the damage they have caused?
Yeah.
So it is an interesting way of putting things. Obviously, League very much are the people that deal in reckonings.
Yeah.
But it's potentially one of these things worth thinking about, and maybe even something where like the Empress could work on uniting.
I think this situation is very, I don't know what other to call it other than very sharp. It is very easy to draw blood in this situation. Both sides are very, very close to doing something, basically. And there is always the chance that with the curse coming to an end on Urizen, does that curse get extended?
Yeah.
There are a couple of other things that they propose to heal the relationship between Urizen and the Marchers. One of them is to begin removing curses, specifically those curses that sort of have been used here in the back and forth, strike them from Imperial law.
Oh.
Literally get rid of them from all the textbooks.
Wow.
I think the actual outcome is that if we just get one of them taken out, it's a huge step towards healing the rift and healing the relationship. But it is that gesture. It is, you know, people saying, okay, we will ban these curses because we are just using them to fight internally.
Interesting.
And the last one that you were picking up on there, develop a better farming ritual, is sort of to invest in the magical infrastructure of the Marchers and find not, you know, because right now they can't do their farming rituals. When they are able to do their farming rituals, they'll have even better rituals.
Yeah.
So there are things they can delve into here to do those better rituals.
That's very cool. And there's two like proverb kind of things.
Yeah.
Well, it's a March proverb. Fair words won't bury grudges.
Yeah. Which means we need action. We need to do something.
Yeah.
Other than just speak about it.
And then the quoting of Suleiman, who is
Suleiman.
someone who the Eurozone just love.
So isn't Suleiman the sword scholar?
Oh, is he?
I think Suleiman might be the head of the sword scholars.
Ooh, maybe he is actually. Maybe they like started to sort of idolize Suleiman too much.
Maybe that's the issue.
But the Eurozone still look up to Suleiman, I believe.
We'll gloss
Maybe
over
I'm wrong.
it because we might have the wrong name. But anyway.
But yeah, thought and action separate. They are meaningless folly.
Again,
so both
the same
thing.
Marcher proverb, Eurozeni proverb. They mean the same thing. Someone's going to do something.
Yeah. So we need some action.
So, turn the other field is the ban is the dark timeline, basically.
The dark timeline.
So, turn the other field is an option for the Marchers, instead of looking to heal, instead of looking to make amends, is the Marchers to say, we really got the short end of the shrift here. We absolutely hate it. They're going to meet on Saturday in the community hall at 6:30, and they're going to discuss the possibility of not farming.
Of striking.
They're going to down tools potentially. And something you said before, they are the Empire's breadbasket.
They are the Marchers as well. Like, that is that kind of their... But yeah, anyway, interesting. One, I just got like literal goosebumps because I was thinking about it, and also turn the other field. I just wanted to talk about the actual like origin, like turn the other cheek. Yeah. Like the Bible.
Okay.
Thing. So apparently people often misconstrue this like story and.
I'm back in Bible studies.
Yeah, so someone told me about this and I was like, it stuck with me. So someone bad guy slaps Jesus.
Oh no.
And there's something about you just.
I'm just gonna have a little gummy while
Fair enough. So, someone slaps Jesus.
Okay. Not good.
And what he does is he literally like physically turns, and is like, why don't you hit me on the other cheek?
Okay.
And what that means is that person has to use the other side of their hand to slap him, and I believe that is like reserved like only for like slaves, or like only for like someone who's like so much lower.
Backhand.
Yeah. And that is like specifically reserved for like this thing. So it's almost like if you would like hit me, you would treat me as you would treat like the person you think is like lowest or whatnot. But I'm sure there's like a lot more to look into it and stuff. But it's an interesting way of thinking about it. That is not like hit me again, you know. It's actual protest. It's a like pointing out what someone has done.
Yeah.
And so it goes very well with this.
Also, turn the other field.
A
little pun on turning fields and
it's very good.
letting them go to seed effectively
Yes.
instead of farming them. A good pun.
Very good. And like, yeah, I think that's very interesting. I think a lot of marches can be very
It goes into a lot of detail.
Striking. Yes.
But basically, the effect of this is devastating.
I bet.
It's devastating financially for the marchers. It's devastating for the Empire's logistics and their armies.
What are we going to eat in Sarvos? The food just comes in. The food just arrives.
We'll have to start canning food now.
Gosh.
Start pickling all your apples.
Oh,
Well,
no.
actually, no, it's not apple time in spring, is it? What gets harvested in spring?
Wait. What food do you get this
Start
time of
pickling
year?
all your broad beans and peas. That's it.
Doesn't all the food just happen all
Doesn't all the food
around
happen?
the year?
Yeah, if only. Yeah, so absolutely devastating if they choose to do that.
Yes.
I hope they don't.
Right?
But power's in their hands, and if you
Yeah.
squish someone down enough and treat them unfairly enough, it's going to happen.
And there's the March proverb, hard work wins wars.
And no work loses them.
And also, at the end, another one, just a little one on its own. There's 2 ways to bury a hatchet.
I've seen this proverb so many times.
Good there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good one.
Storms across the bay.
So this is the other half, which relates to the Bay of Catazar, right?
Yes, so they it's affecting Necropolis, Redoubt, Sarvos, and Spiral.
No. We're Sarvos, by the way.
Yes, it's affecting trade with foreign nations, Axos, Sarkafan, Suma, the Iron Confederacy. They are all like
affected by the terrible weather.
Yeah, or the ships can't, you know.
But this penalty could be avoided if the ambassador chooses to inform their counterpart that there will be no storms this season coming. I don't know what that means. Let's read into it.
What, like lie to them, or?
So.
Okay, so spring magic happening, bringing storms. The citizens have been warned by their National Assembly to take precautions for the worst of it. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Sarvos is vulnerable to flooding. We suffer badly. It's not loud. Okay, so this is like a threat of flooding.
So yeah, basically what it's doing here is it's picking out all of the places that are affected, and then we're going to come to those places in a bit.
Cool.
One of the things it mentions here, which is the bit that you picked up on, is that you can... Where is it? If the ambassador writes to their counterpart, so if the ambassador for Axos writes to Axos' ambassador to the Empire and assures them that Imperial waters are completely safe for their fleets to enter, then they'll be fine, because then Axos will be like, let's move our fleets into Imperial water.
Yeah.
It's safe there.
I've got knowledge.
Of course, if they do that and it turns out not to be true, it's a diplomatic disaster.
It's a disaster.
Unsurprising. It's an absolute disaster. So, the idea being that if we have floods everywhere right now, it's terrible. If we can in some way ensure against those floods to make it so that we are not going to feel the effects of them, and then potentially offer other people safe harbour against it.
Yeah.
Two birds, one stone. Fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. We just got to be able to do it.
Yeah, we just got to want it hard enough.
All right. So we've got flooding of Caricamar. I should know because I live in Sarvos, but it's the southernmost district of Sarvos, which is not where we live, so it's fine. So it is worse than less severe than a tempest. So that's good. The tempest of 348 year end.
Yeah.
So good. Not as bad as a tempest. Full tempest.
One
not bad.
Tempest.
But there was a warning raised by someone von Temeshwar.
Chessia called us from Temeshwar. So we actually voted for this, if you remember.
Did I?
Yes, we did actually vote for this. The Bay of Catazar will receive a curse.
Yes.
So we didn't vote for the curse. The curse was always going to happen.
Okay.
The Bay of Catazar will receive a curse to prevent enemy fleet access that will cause significant flooding. I urge citizens of the League, particularly those in the affected areas of Sarvos and Spiral, to prevent damages to our great nation through preparation, awareness and vigilance. So the idea was, Bay of Catazar, we lost it.
Yes.
It was lost to the Empire. The Brass Coast lost their coast, basically. And that's really bad. And the solution that someone came up with was to curse the area and flood it, to make it inhospitable to fleets.
Gosh.
Obviously, that floods places like Sarvos and Spiral, and places that are close to the water.
Yeah.
So we released this, and we, with a greater majority, voted for a warning. Okay. We said that, be prepared, there's going to be floods.
Yes.
Everyone buy sandbags.
Interesting. And is this a new... we've got a new commission for flood defences?
Yes.
Vandasar flood defences.
So
the Vandasar family have put out this potential special commission. It costs 12 white granite and 72 crowns. And Sarvos will not suffer unduly from flooding in the future if the territory is cursed with foam and spittle, which I believe was mentioned in some of the previous...
Well, that was...
because that was the Spring Eternal.
Absolutely.
So that is a potential, basically, and that could even come from our own.
Yeah.
So
So something to think about here, because this is now a little closer to home for us, and I feel even a little more informed as well. Yes. Something to think about is how frequently is this going to happen, because we do not have the Bay of Catazar. It is still lost.
Yeah.
Flooding it via a ritual is something that has been done to stem the bleeding, effectively, to push the Grendel out as best we can, and make it generally inhospitable. If this area is going to be cursed ad nauseum until someone else can figure out what we're actually going to do, then we probably should build the flood defences.
Yeah.
If this is just going to be a one-off, then it might not be worth it.
But we're next door to Madruga, so it's probably important.
Yeah.
I think, so that makes sense. I think the sort of next thing we've got is Redoubt.
I'll add one more thing to that.
Sure.
It feels very British to flood. Then people are like, we should build flood defences.
Yes.
And then we'll probably say no to it. And then we'll flood again, and they're going to repeat that cycle.
Yes. It's a good thing that, the League invests back in,
Yeah.
We're not in an austerity in the League.
Oh, like in real life.
Like in real life. We love to throw money at problems, and we love to fix them, and actually we're quite well prepared for a lot of things, so it's all good. We're like adding to our waterways and making them strong and protected.
Strong and stable.
Strong and stable. Gosh. I
don't think you're gonna get the flood defences through.
Sodden Plains is the next one. The Redoubt. Okay, so there is no warning for Urizen, but the saving grace is that the people tend to build their spires high in the mountains.
That works.
That's pretty good. So there are mithril nets that could be installed up in the cliffs for the Urizeni.
Do you mind if we expand all of those?
Yeah, and they would be woven. What is these mithril nets? So they will dissipate energy from future storms, and preventing risk of damage if the curses are needed to attack the Grendel. So it kind of protects them high up in there.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting opportunity that arises now.
Mm-hmm.
There have been these huge storms. They've not really been affected by them, but they've sort of realised that they could be.
They are in some places, aren't they? Because Urizen.
They're a little bit affected.
Yeah.
But they're not as affected as places like Sarvos, and they've realised that they live in the skyscrapers of the world.
Yeah.
So maybe they should build a net of a lightning rod. Mm-hmm. So there is the idea that they could build these nets.
Yeah.
And that will help protect against the storm, but it also protects against the storm, but it also creates this title. And this title has extra powers as well.
Okay.
Someone gets put in charge of the nets. It'll be an Urizeni position, nationally appointed.
Mm-hmm.
Someone gets put in charge of the nets, and they can trade money for mana crystals and sunfruit.
Okay, so it can balance that because, like, they have been under attack and their mana has been depleted.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, cursed. They've been cursed there, and their mana's depleted. So maybe they want to sort of.
I think it's interesting because it is showing how someone has been affected by the storm.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to just propose the Great Nets as a storm defence, as they have in Sarvos, probably wouldn't go for it because they've not been that heavily affected.
Yeah.
So they tack on.
But I feel they have been affected because of the curse.
So the curse and the storm are two different things.
Yeah.
The curse is winter magic.
Yeah, but it's causing.
Oh, it's causing problems. Yeah. But this is relating to just dissipation of storms under spring magic.
Oh, okay, okay. That makes sense.
That. No one, I think, in any of these opportunities has proposed building a more dedicated system of protection for winter magic.
Dr. Knox has said, I'm a Sarvos business owner, how do we vote for flood defences? So, flood defences, how do we get those put in? So, it's a commission.
No commission slot required.
Commission type special. Okay, no commissions. Okay, so it would be done within a season. It would require a Senate motion to approve it, but no commission slot. So that means that it'll be even easier to get through Senate, but take it to the Senator for Sarvos, and make sure they get it in there, and there's no cost.
Yeah, if we were to kind of start from the beginning with this, if you want the flood defences in place, it's not a matter, I don't think, of voting for it.
No.
Because the things you vote for are positions, like imperial positions, national positions. Mm-hmm. You kind of have to put the Vandasar flood defences on your back and carry them across the finish line. Somewhere, and it won't just be one person, it'll be lots of people trying to do this, but the combination of all these people will need to raise 12 white granite and 72 crowns. Mm-hmm. They will need to speak to the senator for Sarvos or Caracamer, one of the League senators, and they will have to get those senators on their behalf to raise a motion in Senate to approve the work.
Yeah.
So you have to convince your senator, and you have to find the resources.
Yes.
And that's how you do it.
And hopefully it won't be hard to convince the senator because it's a good win, I think.
It's an easy win.
Especially with no commission slot. Slot is just getting the the resources to do it. So yeah, I would talk to the Senator for Sarvos and collaborate with them and see what you can drum up.
Yeah, just thinking kind of like practically about this. Not going to be the only person who wants to see this push forward.
Yeah.
All of those people who want the flood defences built are going to be going to the Senator.
Yeah.
Because they're all going to be thinking that they need a Senate motion. So what that means is that the Senator is probably going to be able to say, okay, we've got a granite from here, we've got some crowns from here, and they're going to help lead the effort, as it were.
Yeah, hopefully that'll work. And also, if there are any specific meetings for Sarvos, being like a sort of town meeting for Sarvos, because those things happen. Often we aren't at them because there'll be something happening while priestly stuff is happening.
Yeah.
But that's great for business people to go to.
Yeah.
And make things happen like that.
Track the Senator down.
So, and I feel like a lot of these things, obviously, there's things like this like roll for the Eurozeni that's like a tally of the votes, and it sort of lists things like that. But if it's a commission, it will often be via your senator.
Yeah.
So
no, I think that's pretty. That sort of covers that and how to do that. There's this other thing that they can put in place that makes storms less bad.
Yes.
That also creates a position as well.
Yeah, and that's in Horizon.
And then there are some conjunctions.
Oh, very cool. So in Necropolis.
So a conjunction.
Yes.
Is like an event in the Sentinel Gate, basically.
Yeah, you're basically it could be a skirmish, a battle. You're going through the Sentinel Gate, or because the Sentinel Gate is like transporting you to like a different place in time, kind of thing. It can be some kind of interaction. It doesn't necessarily have to be a fight. There are some like very cool things that can happen with conjunctions. Roleplay things.
No combat conjunctions exist. They can be very roleplay based.
Yeah, it could be around performing lots of like basically interaction with NPCs.
Yeah.
That is very like concentrated and usually limited to a certain amount of people.
One of the things, this is sort of like an in-game thing, but the Sentinel Gate is not a teleporter. Think of it more, this is going to be a bit of a dated reference I think now, but think of it more like the Stargate from Stargate SG-1. If that lands, they basically move a bunch of runes into place, and it turns out that you can go to a place at a time, and that's it. You can't pick and choose where you're going.
It kind of chooses for us.
And that's why it's called a conjunction, because the Sentinel Gate aligns with the location.
That makes sense.
So in terms of the magical powers that the Empire has, we can't just teleport anywhere. We can only teleport to certain places at certain times as happenstance dictates, as profound decisions dictates. But that's kind of the in-game explanation for how can we teleport there but not other places.
Yeah.
But anyway, a conjunction on the shores of Necropolis.
Yes, so it looks like Grendel fleet. Is this with Grendel fleets? I'm just having a little look. So 3 Grendel vessels, the Merry Mariner, the Swift Replies, and the Flying Civet, are engaged in some kind of covert action in Necropolis. It seems they were attempting to effect a hidden landing, either to raid Crown's Key or Sanctuary, or to attempt to re-establish a spy network here. All 3 ships were driven ashore by the storms and are no longer seaworthy. Their crews are stranded along the coast of Necropolis, unable to put back to sea or escape. These bands of Grendel are effectively stuck in the territory until they are rescued, or they can steal the resources needed to repair their ships. The opportunity exists for Imperial heroes to ensure they never see the broken shore again.
So this is sort of like, I see this as a bit of a flourish, It's kind of a bit of a reward. You've driven the Grendel onto shore because of how bad the weather is. They're stranded there, so you can kill them. Grendel often have lots of resources on them, like physically on them.
They will try and like barter and whatnot for their lives.
They will try and barter for their lives, but if you literally are just, because in this instance they never see the broken shore again, because they are trying to establish a spy network, so they might have information. If you end up going on this skirmish, this conjunction, killing a bunch of Grendel, loot their bodies. They are going to have a bunch of stuff on them.
Very lucrative.
They didn't anticipate that they were going to get driven onto shore. They got caught short, so they will have a lot of resources on them probably to set up the spy network.
Yeah, so this is like suggesting 3 different conjunctions. They're all skirmishes.
And they're all combat highly likely.
Yes, so it's all like, you know, big stuff.
Fighting.
Big fighty stuff. And so skirmish is the first one. They've the Grendel loot an heirloom from a chapter in Sanctuary Sands. No time yet, but the Champion of Prosperity is responsible for this, basically arranging this skirmish and making it happen. Then we've got the Deceptions. A force of Grendel are infiltrating Long Beach. And the Imperial Spy Master is responsible for sort of conducting this skirmish, which I believe is Bernard Dugdale.
Yeah, the one and only.
Hugh Farrier is the Champion of Prosperity, and Traps. A force of Grendel are riling up ghosts in High Rod.
That's never good.
I hate it when people rile up my ghosts. The High Exorcist is responsible for the skirmish, defeating them, and all of that.
So again, the idea is that a bunch of Grendel are going to be marauding around anyway. Lots of them have been driven on land by the weather. That doesn't mean that they're inactive. They are looting. They are infiltrating. They are riling up ghosts. Yeah. And we need to stop them. So, in addition to this, where they are stranded, there are 3 more conjunctions, you know, time yet to be decided, where you can go and fight Grendel, go and loot their bodies, go and do so for a virtuous cause, because you are stopping all these things from happening. And most importantly, if you are interested in going on these skirmishes, speak to these people. Yes. And this is their name. Because they will be organising it. They will be on the field trying to get enough people together. Yeah.
Or trying to get the right people together as well.
Yeah, trying to get the right mix of people together so that they can be successful at the skirmish.
So Hugh Farrier, Bernard Dugdale, and Alessi of the Basilisks of the Labyrinth.
So yeah.
So all those people will be arranging things on field.
An opportunity to beat up the Grendel.
Yeah, really get them where it hurts.
Go get them.
Go get them, kids. Right. Last one for tonight, at least.
Yes.
It will continue.
It always continues.
Into the Spin. This is because we recently have captured the territory of Mareave.
Yes.
And now we're kind of like, what do we do with it? And that's it.
That's it. That's literally it.
We're now like, we've got options.
This entire wind is literally that question. What do we do with Mareave?
Okay. All right. I understand what you're saying. I really do. Sunstone Varuk was shaking her head as she spoke. I know you want people to understand what the assignment means. What it means is that you've liberated them from the Grendel, but I think the problem is that you don't actually know what that means. Varuk was one of the original Sanite Sept, one of the gladiators from the Barad. They put in a Gaelic word, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna wrong.
I'm gonna say like Mareave.
Beret, maybe?
Yeah.
Beret? Anyway, they got distracted. One of the gladiators from the Beret arena, she'd become an unofficial spokesperson of the people of Rathmona. She'd grown up in the vicinity, and while they were suspicious of her, they were prepared to speak to her more frankly, more openly, than they were the soldiers of the Winter Sun. We've beaten the Grendel, now these people are free to become Imperial citizens.
Hooray!
What don't I understand?
We've liberated them.
Yantel spoke a little more hotly than he intended. Getting his emotions under control took a little effort as he hid it by sipping her hot spiced tea. It was very good. He suspected Eft would enjoy it as well and made a mental note to pick some up to take home with him. Sure, we know that, but the Grendel aren't the Druge. These people don't live in fear. They're not slaves, most of them. As long as they pay their taxes, they can keep up their levy, they just get on with stuff. You think Mareave cares about a shithole like Rathmona? You think brine turtles even knew this place existed before they arrived here with thousands of Imperial warriors on their asses? As long as the money keeps coming in and the Jaws have a good crop of drakes each year, they just... The Sanite gestured vaguely. She shrugged. All of this liberation, it's just... It's so many words. She tried again. What the people here in Rathmona want to know is what kind of taxes we're going to impose. Whether their young folk are going to be conscripted into your armies, and what sort of recompense they'll get if they end up fighting for us. What kind of stupid laws and regulations we're going to impose. Stupid laws? So Yantel sputtered his tea. Look, I'm just telling you what people are saying. The Winter Sun had orders to break the chains and liberate the Sanites. And don't think that those of us who were slaves aren't grateful for that. But these folk? There's no chains here. I know you imagine the day the Winter Sun came here and liberated Rathmona was the most important day in these people's lives, but for most of them, it was just another day.
It was a Tuesday.
It was a Tuesday. They don't see any difference between the Empire and the Grendel, and it's just going to take a lot more than a few rousing words to get them to see the difference. Assuming there is any, of course. Assuming there is any, of course. The last was spoken quietly, almost as if it was Farouk alone. Yantel frowned and looked askance at his friend. He knew she'd been angered by some of the foolish comments from the other soldiers during the early months of invasion, but he thought they'd moved past it. The Sanite's face was unreadable. She gazed off into the middle distance, sipping her spiced tea.
So, obviously, a bit of role play, a bit of parchmenty background, representing incredible. I love the art. Representing the fact that this territory, Mareave, conquered multiple times by various forces, all starts to become a bit much of a muchness in the end.
Yeah.
You know, it just boils down to what taxes and what conscription laws are we going to be ruled by for the next 5 years until you lose the territory.
Yeah.
And that's a very real feel.
Yeah, like wake me up when I've got to do something.
Yeah.
But
I'm just going to carry on farming because that's basically what I do.
Yeah. Okay, so we now have to assign this territory to one of the nations?
So the first thing to do is assign the territory.
Which is... it's interesting because like we've got places like Urizen that have like lost a territory by having it given to like another nation, and then there's places like the Brass Coast that have literally just lost somewhere, and it was their last place on the coast as well.
And then there are the geographical places that surround.
Yeah, so I think Spiral is actually one of the closest places to it.
Yeah, just north of it.
Considering like the actual, I'm not sure whether the place around it is not. It doesn't belong to them, does it? No,
because it's sort of conquered that way. The idea is that when the Empire conquers a new land, the Empire conquers it. A nation doesn't.
Yeah.
And so now we have to decide who gets this nation. It comes with a swath of good and bad things, basically. If you get another territory like this, you eventually get another senator to rule over that territory. And that senator gives you one more of everything in the Senate. Another person to make motions, another person to represent the interests of your nation as a whole. Very, very important. And as you say, when people are losing territory, as has happened recently, very, very bad thing to happen. Yeah,
it's interesting when like there's basically what I feel is like there's not enough of a presence in Mareave of the people, of the culture, for them to be considered their own nation.
No.
Because they have been conquered before.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, we're just kind of swapping them out for...
Well, I think that's the point. We've not conquered Mareave through any cultural victory.
Yeah.
We've literally just captured it, and the people there are just the people that's there. So I had a look at this. On Saturday evening, Senate, they will be discussing it. they may not assign the territory then if it is not decided. They can vote for no nation. That is an option. So if a majority votes for no nations, it will come up again next event. And it will continue to do that until they find someone. When it is assigned to a nation, they will not get a senator immediately. Senator elections will take place the event after.
Okay. Interesting. I'm just looking at like the territory in general.
Yeah.
It says there are a few humans there. The climate and geography are themselves unwelcoming, arid and dry.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the same time, the territory contains hidden wealth. Mines in the eastern mountains and hills burst with precious metal in the port city of Mareave. Apparently welcomes traders from across the known world. So it's kind of like there's not necessarily great here, but I'm curious to see.
Land of opportunity.
Yeah, I'm curious to see whether there is like a nation that are like, we can work with that. That sounds a lot like some of our places. I'm going
to say one last thing about the assignment and allocation of the land.
Yes.
Any nation can claim it. Doesn't matter geographically who it's next to, politically who's connected it, who drove the Imperial Army push towards conquering the location. Any nation can now submit a claim for the territory.
Yeah. All those things could be argued for it, of course, but it's still like you put your speak to your senator, put your arguments forward, get them to do it, or it's always I think it's probably going to be an interesting Senate session, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd love to know what they choose and why they choose it.
Yeah. So
that's we've covered
we've covered some of this stuff, yeah. Fidendel, there's a mithril mine there apparently, and so it's basically, even without assigning, we can still like use it for what it's like, the valuable things it has.
Okay, so they can still make appointments for mithril mines and stuff like that.
Yeah, and do things from the Regio and things like that. Okay. So
it's still an active imperial territory. It's just not nationally assigned.
Yes. Okay. Very cool.
I think this is also, we also sort of discussed the fine art assignment. The idea is that you ain't just getting a territory. It's going to come with a lot of problems.
Yes. I don't know if it says anything about... Okay, I think I'll probably read this box that's been put here.
Go for it.
Expectation management. When it comes to assigning Mareave or any new territory, there are no wrong answers and no best answer. Any nation who is assigned this territory is going to face challenges. The nature of those challenges and the opportunities that will accompany them will be influenced by who the territory is assigned to. Integrating a new territory into the Empire will usually take a great deal of time and involve significant challenges. Every territory is different and the challenges will be different each time. The outcome is never guaranteed, but we aim to make those challenges as much fun for those people who want to engage with them and potentially achievable regardless of whether the nation takes on the challenge. Dealing with orcs who live in Mareave is one of the challenges that must be addressed here. Even if a peaceful accommodation is made with them, that doesn't mean that they will want to become part of any imperial nation. At present, the bulk of people of Mareave have no interest in joining any imperial nation and no desire to move anywhere else.
Immediately, I'm like, it's interesting because what nation takes the territory will entirely guide how that nation tackles those problems. Because I'm like, if League took that territory, I'd be interested in like a cultural victory. I'd be like, you don't want to move because you don't know enough about us yet, and be like, let's share the joy. But other nations might do things completely differently.
And like maybe there could be people who kind of send little diplomatic, people out to Mareave and see what response they get, because it could be like the League sends some people over to them and they're like, we don't really care about you, and then we could send some marcher over there and they'd like love them, and they'd be like, oh, these people are talking my language. Lots of problems.
Problems.
Yes.
They've identified 4 big challenges. The first one is the obvious one. Parental opposition. Mareave is on the Bay of Catazar.
Yes. It says that the Grendel have dominated Mareave since the time of Emperor Nicovar. So they have dominated for quite some time.
Long time, yeah.
And the mithril mine is very appealing to them, basically.
Yeah, and they're not happy that they've lost it.
Mm-hmm. So that is, a potential threat.
That's a problem. You're going to have to deal with the fact that you have taken territory from a hostile force. Mm-hmm. That hostile force still exists. It's still out there and it still wants its territory back.
Yep. And then we've got orc inhabitants. They're not a problem, but we've got to be able to deal with them, bring them in.
So there's a lot of orcs here. Mm-hmm. This is starting to become more of a common problem, more of a common challenge, I think, that PD seem to be throwing people's ways.
Yeah.
There are just more orcs in the world, and fairly well established orcs that want to exist in Empire culture, exist alongside but not as part of Empire culture, or just want to exist despite Empire culture.
Yeah.
And it is about figuring out how the orcs here operate, because from what I've seen with various orc settlements kind of cropping up around the world, every single one of their cultures is completely different.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Some of them, so there's lots of different groups, I guess, or maybe smaller groups of orcs. Where it's saying some of these orcs have already joined a particular sect of the Imperial orcs.
Yeah.
Some of them are more interested in becoming Urizeni, Dornish, or Winter folk. So there's all these kind of different wants and things out there. They don't follow the way. They're currently still following the Grendel virtues.
Yeah.
So they almost have something more in common with the Apulians of the League in that way. And then we've got the brine turtles, who are a sept of orcs, and there's an army, I think, that's on the border.
It's the army.
So they might have some interaction with that. I'm just notable. I guess it's they might try and take this territory.
Well, the idea is that every conflicting force of orcs, Grendel, have been pushed out. So the forces that remain, this sept of orcs, the brine turtles, and the people are ambivalent. Yeah. They don't care who comes and goes. They're probably not going to try and recapture the territory. But what is going to happen? Yeah. How are they going to integrate?
Yeah.
Or are they going to integrate at all? A challenge posed to whatever nation takes the territory.
It kind of challenges the Empire as a whole, where it's there are a bunch of people and they might all kind of want to go in their own different directions because they're all different people.
Yeah.
And how then do we keep continuing to be separate nations, and not sort of completely melting
it's
into
coming
one
up a
another?
lot. Obviously, it's come up with the Apulian, it's come up with the Sand Fishers, Great Forest Orcs. It's coming up everywhere.
The ones in Marches as well that have been helping out. I can't remember their name, but they're sort of.
They play football though.
They play football really well.
Say that much.
Dry land and economics.
So it's a bit of a dusty territory.
Yeah, it's parched grasslands. They've got mountains and stuff, but it seems like quite a dry place. It says that there are some parts that are quite fertile. A similar pattern of farms to those found in Segura or Feroz, which sounds like Brass Coast.
Yeah.
But two of those regions are still in barbarian hands. Two of the regions mentioned that are more fertile. So it's basically one part of it is kind of fertile.
Yeah.
So
this is a problem for the next sentence. Supporting imperial citizens is a challenge without access to food.
Yeah.
So it's possible, and they mentioned that people have done it with Horizon. Marchers have shipped in food before. It's possible to set up supply lines do things, probably magical things, to the earth to make it more fertile and to get kind of like an agricultural economy going. But it's just another challenge. It's not a very fertile area.
Also, I just want to go back to the map because I'm wondering if there's like any of these like areas, because like basically if they can be connected by spiral, even though they're separated by like a mountain range, it still means that they're like physically so much more connected to the Empire without having to go through like waters
on what we know is a flooding bay of Catazar. But dry land and economics, it's a desert basically, or it's a dead plain.
Yes, so it's not that great, and people need to be fed if you're going to be bringing a bunch of new people in there.
No, the last thing is actually the thing you just mentioned, that there are no adjacent. It is landlocked by enemies, effectively.
Yes.
So you're going to need to get things and people in and out somehow.
Or start conquering more areas in the areas in between.
Yeah, but that's not a quick. That's not.
I'm not sure whether that area is like who that's belonging to specifically.
Part of me is like, how did we even conquer this area? Kind of like in the middle, but we did.
We did. Maybe it just wasn't being held onto that tightly, considering like the Grendel's forces being so split everywhere else. While they were looking at Madruga, we were looking there.
Yes. They were studying the blade.
Yeah. So far from it, yes. So the former Salt Lord.
One last problem on our one last wind.
So there's a former Salt Lord, which is like the Grendel's leaders, of I can't remember what we said this was going to be called again.
Bereid.
So former Salt Lord of Bereid has approached Imperial forces with an offer of neutrality. I think this might be a similar
offer from the Apulians.
Yeah.
They don't want to betray their ancestors in the manner of the former Salt Lord of Apulius.
Interesting. So they don't want to become like the Apulians, but they're also trying to like still, I think, be in charge. So are they doing the same thing?
Yeah. So I think this is. So these are separate orcs to the brine turtles, because the brine turtles come up later on. It is kind of like a Grendel outfit, Grendel army, that is willing to accept neutrality, which is unsurprising because, and this is where you should probably think about the neutrality, they have lost territory. They have lost a fight and been pushed back out of a territory, and at that point they're saying, okay, let's stop fighting. And the answer might be no, let's carry on fighting, because we want to close these land borders and we want to conquer more territory, and I don't accept your offer of neutrality. We are at war and you're only offering us neutrality because you don't want to lose any more territory. You're on the back foot, we want to keep pushing. There's that as an option. Or there is, we will take the ceasefire and consolidate our territory that we just won. There's a decision to be made about whether or not to continue with this war or to pause it for the time being.
Yeah. Interesting. So I'm wondering, does that mean that this like Salt Lord is still like staying in and trying to rule the people?
So I don't think so.
No.
I think this is a salt. Basically, they two things. This is a Salt Lord and an army that is now outside of the borders of this area, because it has to be, because it's under Imperial control.
That makes sense.
They are making a very specific point that they do not want to ally.
They don't want to be
the
Apulians.
Empire. They do not want to be part of it. That is an interesting declaration to make, because if the Apulians hadn't allied with the League, then the thought, I'm sure, would not have even crossed this Salt Lord's mind. He wouldn't be saying, look, you've pushed us back out of the territory, let's stop fighting, both sides can reconsolidate and heal, but we're not going to ally with you. That wouldn't even be a question. But he wants to make it very clear that the type of orc that allies with the Empire is a very unique type of orc.
Yes. And it's interesting because it makes me feel like they're being like, let's be neutral, but they're only speaking as that one army. not for like the rest of the entire war with the Grendel that's happening.
Because this is the Salt Lord of Mareave, which they've just lost that territory.
Yeah.
So it is effectively the occupying forces of this area.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to do with the other occupying forces of the other areas.
Yeah, what it makes me feel like
the
is...
Salt Lords.
Yeah, the Grendel are like Machiavellian. They're calculating.
They do this a lot.
They do this a lot. And they, like... I think they are... I think they are, like... pulling... You know, they've been kicked out. They're like... Let's be neutral.
Whoa.
Until the Grendel come back and defeat this place.
It was just a prank.
You know?
It was just a prank.
Until we capture it back.
Yeah.
We'll be neutral. We just get to, like, sit here and wait for, like, the rest of the armies to come in and take, like, Mareave back. And then we can just swoop back in. And it's not a big problem for us or my people. And I still have the loyalty of my people.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I see it. But obviously that's just one interpretation.
Yeah.
And then we've got the brine turtles.
So the brine turtles are an already neutral orc army that didn't take any side in the fighting and are based in Mareave.
Okay.
So it is just a case of what are they going to do? The answer is probably remain neutral. You know what my solution to this would be? Two birds, one stone. Say that they can have neutrality. They can have, we will accept this if they provide us with a safe and secure trade route between here. And if they allow that to happen, which will also then breed a positive trade relationship ongoing, because it will prove that we can work together, and ultimately we're driving to spread the virtue across all of the world, convert people to our culture, that will deal with two things at the same time, I think.
Yeah.
That would be my offer. I'd like to float that.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, but that's my initial thought.
Yeah.
Lots of problems, but
lots of problems.
They're not making land anymore. So grab it while you can.
Exactly. Lots of problems, but they could be your problems.
Could be your problems. Wouldn't that be exciting?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
That is us for today.
Yes.
There'll be more. I'm just going to double check whether there are any more have come out while we've been literally speaking here right now.
Into the spin.
Yep.
Yeah, one more is coming. There's always more.
But you're not having that one right now.
We'll let it build up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get you excited about it. But maybe even tomorrow night.
Yeah.
We need to book these in advance, but
yeah, we'll do. I think we'll do tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night we will. I'm seeing some interesting stuff already in this one, but yes, we'll get back to you tomorrow night. We'll read through it and bring you like a succinct version.
We'll talk through it.
And
you can ask
and it'll
me
be
questions.
more casual and please ask questions if you got any. Thank you as well.
Thank you, Dog Knox, for the questions and stuff. Really appreciate it.
It's great. So we'll see you tomorrow evening.
Yes.
And enjoy the wins and have a good night.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.